hip hop soul in the crowd. Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome back in. It is week 8 college football pick show. We're rocking and rolling. We had a nice little, well, most of us had a nice week last week. Fall's here. It's just wonderful. I'm with my best friends. We're talking college football. I mean, nothing could go wrong. Isn't that right, Rob?
Nothing. I mean, beautiful weekend. Well, my Sunday was ruined, but Saturday was beautiful. If somebody ever looked at the text chat between me and Stu on a college football Saturday, you might think we were mortal enemies or we hated each other. But the chat was fired up on Saturday. Bobcat told me and Stu to actually touch grass in the middle of me and him.
It extended from the chat to Twitter, and then people tried to join in, and then they got decapitated on Twitter.
It was the chair over the head. It was the chair over the head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Rutgers, at the point of Rob, at kickoff, how many salami and bourbons did you have? I don't know what you do down there.
We had pork roll. We had, what did we have? Oh, we had burgers Saturday, pork roll sandwiches. I didn't have any bourbon. We actually had red wine. We had a few beers and a little red wine.
It's Tony Soprano. What?
Yeah, the Dagos and Guineas out at the Rutgers game.
Oh, how dare you? Yeah, nice cigar. It was raining though. It was terrible weather.
Did you make sure to put ketchup on your spaghetti?
How dare you? I have to say, this year, usually there's a ton of Michigan State fans. This is the least amount I've ever seen for Michigan State. Usually they bring a ton.
Why would we show up?
They have pitchforks at Mel Tucker's house right now. Still
support the team, though. You got to support.
This
what
team?
Is what I say about fandom.
Support what team, Rob? Support what team? It's college football.
Listen,
a quarter to a half of these guys are playing right now, so they can get taped, so they can leave. The coaching staff are a bunch of either idiots, con men, or you're Harlan Barnett and you're listening to Kids Bop on the sideline. So what is that? What am I supposed to root for?
No, but
athletic department is a dumpster fire.
No, you feel like I felt like when Jeremy Pruitt was coaching Tennessee.
I've seen this show. I guarantee you, and we'll get to it later on. Hey, newsflash: put your entire mortgage on Michigan this weekend. It's my game of the year, century. They are going to hit us like a damn piñata. You know what? They should. You're going to get the Bobby Williams. I think I lost this team after the game. That I'm calling it. And the fact you almost lost to the absolute worst, and they are worse than Northwestern. The absolute worst team in the Big Ten is laughable.
They're not worse than Northwestern.
Northwestern has a Big Ten win. You think Michigan State's getting one this year? I rest my case.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Northwestern's been scrappy.
Northwestern.
I think Michigan State will win a Big Ten game.
Against who? Is Chicago back in the Big Ten? Are we playing Chicago?
Let me see the schedule here. Hold on.
Let me see. We could play the Windsor Health and Physicians School.
They only have 2 home games left: Michigan and Nebraska.
They'll beat Nebraska.
They might beat Indiana. Indiana might be the worst team in the Big Ten.
Wait.
They'll beat Nebraska and Indiana.
They can't. They have no special teams.
They might beat Minnesota.
No special teams. None.
Well, we know that.
They can't catch a punt. They don't know how to punt. When they're not shanking a ball 14 yards, they're trying to kick to All-American punt returners. They can't cover a punt. They can't field a punt. And all they do is go 3 and out. So they're constantly punting. So it's an issue. How you were down 24-6 or whatever it was is wild.
Wow, we know how they were down. I mean, just, horrific calls by the referees.
The only silver lining, Rob, is that you guys will probably end up in the Little Caesars Bowl, and me and you get to party in Detroit at
That's
Christmas.
right. That's right.
That is the
We
only
get to
silver
get
lining.
down. Listen,
If
if
you
we get to a
think
bowl
you're
game,
not eating hot dogs all weekend,
oh, it's Coney dogs for Christmas, baby. If we make it out to Detroit, forget about it. And I told you, I'm staying out in 8 Mile. I mean, I'm getting the true experience of
yeah,
Detroit.
we're gonna help you out with that. We'll get you in the spot. You won't
I'm
be
going
too
to title
far.
this show on YouTube "The Poverty Program Fight." Slash
In
Rob.
Michigan State's a top 25 program. Top 25 in the country. And we have
Yeah.
absolute
Definitely.
clown car on fire.
Mm.
Okay. Let's look at what they spend on athletics. Top 25 in terms
They
of
spend a
income.
lot.
And
They spend a
guess
lot.
what? You got a bunch of donors that are a bunch of billionaires that just
Well,
tried to pay a
listen,
coach $100
you have
million.
to have a lot of money when you spend that much time on FaceTime and you're on the internet doing things and tissues and
In
whatever.
terms of spending, where would they rank in the Big Ten?
I think I saw a list and they were
Would you say you are the
fourth or fifth.
Would you inform this at some point this season? You
Behind Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan.
like is that
They're behind. Who's got something playing?
Yeah, I guess behind those three, it's pretty much
Yeah,
everybody.
they're about fourth or
Yeah.
fifth. But
I would
remember,
probably
they
say
got
Wisconsin might
they
spend
got
more.
that
but I
peacock
don't
money
know.
coming in. They got a ton of money put into this program.
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah,
It's all going to Mel Tucker. Maybe.
we'll wait and see on that. We will wait and see on that. But anyway, yeah, Rob, congrats on the victory. Lucky win. Failed to cover. I have no idea how. But yeah.
That was the best case scenario. You lost money and Michigan State lost.
Oh no, I made money. I made money on that game. I made money because I bet Rutgers at halftime money line, and I showed you the fucking ticket.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did get him at plus 560. That was a good bet.
Yeah.
Nice, dude.
Yeah. If you didn't know how that game was going to end, you're fucking lunatic. Free money. Anyway, let's get into it. We got the whole crew here, minus the Bobcat, we're just waiting on a bail bondsman phone call at some point tonight. So, the boy JC, CVD, Roberto, we're all back. Let's start it off. Roberto, you're always the leadoff hitter. You're the Lenny Dykstra of this crew, probably because you look like him right now, and you certainly eat like him. Roberto, 19-17 overall, coming off a 4-3 week. Dogs 3-4, locks 5-3. Roberto, what you got for us?
All right. We're going to start it off Saturday. Last week wasn't too bad. Pitt was a nice one. If you sprinkle a little bit Pitt money line, I like Pitt. In that game, late night, I got into Hawaii. It was an okay Saturday. But listen, Rutgers won, so it made it all worth it. My first bet Saturday. Now, I can't say the name on the show because I'll get fined, but it's a school in Pennsylvania that's getting 4 points on Saturday.
Okay.
And I like them a lot. It's a school in Pennsylvania that bad things happened at and bad people attend. But listen, it's
you don't want to be a young male adult at that school. Is that fair to say?
No,
Okay.
definitely not.
Yeah, because
Definitely
it's a
not.
Big
Don't go anywhere
Ten
near there.
school.
Because it's a Big Ten school. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're poverty SEC.
Yeah, because
Teachers-
sixes
teachers
down
have
here,
sex
sixes
with
down here are
dogs.
10 up there.
You've seen,
Just saying.
you've seen it. My second bet Saturday, and I really like this bet. It's not my lock, but I'm really feeling strong about this one. I love Arkansas giving 6 at home versus Mississippi State. I think Arkansas is in a perfect spot here. Obviously, their season hasn't went too well. Mississippi State, I just don't trust.
Rob,
Go ahead.
you know the drill on the show. You know the drill on the show when it comes to that school. Pronounce it correctly.
Oh, Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like Arkansas on this spot. I just think the line speaks volumes to me. 6. They're a 2-5 team, and they're favored by 6 points versus Mississippi State. That speaks volumes to me. Third bet of the weekend, and this will be my regular bet. I love Boston College getting 4.5. I think
Shout out
Georgia Tech.
Bags.
The shout out Bags. I like BC in this spot. They're taking money early on in the book. Georgia Tech coming off that miracle win at Miami. Shout out to Paul Scoop on the U. Just tough scenes. But
You
it
want to
really
see
is just
a human being having
Oh, yeah.
an emotional breakdown. Check out our
Oh.
guy Scoop on the U. God love Paul. He's a good dude, but Jesus Christ, he's going through a tough time in his life.
Now listen, for you guys that follow the show, if you've been on Twitter for years like me and Steele, okay, Danny Boy Kane,
Oh
one of the
my
most original college football mongos you will ever see. El Prez always like retweets him or quote tweets him. I mean, his tweet Friday night when he was in that hotel room in North Carolina,
For our
classic.
listeners, Danny put up a video where he piped into the local television channel in Chapel Hill, and they have a camera right at Main Street, and he was talking about all the shops and the route to get to the stadium, and really dissecting traffic patterns pre-game. I mean, that's how deep Danny gets.
Yeah, it was.
God bless him.
It was something hilarious. To go back and watch some of his videos, he's an absolute mongo. My best bet of the weekend this week. I love Utah getting 7 in this game versus USC. The line kind of makes me a little bit nervous.
Is that
I
your
really don't
best bet or
understand.
your dog of the week?
Utah's going to be my best bet of the week. My dog of the week is going to be. Oh, I gave you that before the show, didn't I? Yeah.
Yeah.
My best bet of the weekend is going to be Utah. The line's a little shaky to me, but I just think this USC defense absolutely stinks. I think Utah will be able to move the ball on them, and I like Utah's defense. I think they'll be able to hang in there. Caleb will probably have a bounce back game. I love Notre Dame last week. I mean, Caleb was horrific in that game. I don't really think he cost himself any spots in the draft. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I mean, it wasn't a good performance, but it happens. I mean, it snowballed on the road. I mean, Chris, what did you think about the way he played Saturday? Did you watch any of that game?
I did watch a little bit of it. I mean, it was definitely subpar for what we're used to with him. He was getting a lot of pressure. He took 6 sacks. They couldn't run the ball. Notre Dame, they kind of turned it into a slog. It was a physical game. Notre Dame only had 251 yards in that game. USC actually had the yardage edge, which I didn't realize until I just looked at it. -5 turnovers for USC in that game really changed the tide. Yeah, it was a poor performance. But no, it doesn't change everyone's opinion on him. We've seen too much good to have one game affect where he gets drafted. He's still the #1 pick in the draft or first quarterback taken.
Future Bears
Yeah.
quarterback.
Yeah, and they might get Marvin Harrison Jr. My best bet of the weekend, believe it or not, I am going to go to the Miami Hurricanes. I love this spot. Stu tried to talk me out of
Wait.
it.
Is Utah your best bet or is Miami your best bet?
Oh, Miami's my long shot play. I'm sorry, long shot play.
Jesus
I'm messing
Christ, Rob.
Yeah, I'm messing
Mother of God.
up. I like Miami as my long shot play this week. I just don't think Clemson. I don't know. I just don't like the way they're playing. Miami obviously has been in a 2-game funk. I think they could snap out of it here. This line speaks volumes to me that it's only at 3.5. I think Miami wins it outright. And my last bet of the weekend, Stu is going to laugh, but I think Michigan State covers. I think Stu's making too much of it. I think Miami covers this. I think Michigan State covers this 24.5.
Okay, you keep thinking that.
I'm telling you.
Okay. It's been 1985 is the stat you got going for you. 1985 is the last time the war criminals beat MSU at East Lansing by more than 3 touchdowns.
Okay.
However, in years where Michigan State has fired their coach, Michigan has covered over 30 the last 4 or 5 times that's happened. So you got some dueling things there. But yeah, go
I
with
think they
MSU.
can cover. I think they can cover.
I could get into MIT next week. We'll see what happens. All right. Let's go to Mr. Tuesday Night. He is the whole effing show. He is CVD, NCSports.com, NCSports.com, NC Sports.com, CVD, Chris Van effing Dine. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I just realized my picks on your show sucked last week. I had a good week overall.
1-6.
Yeah, I had a good week overall, and I just realized I looked down at my notes from the last show, and I'm like, lost. What the heck? Everything I put out on your show lost. I was 2-1 on the Power Sweep podcast. Our late phones went 4-3 on Saturday. Just
literally 1-6.
Look at the draw, and
possibly your worst week of the year brings you to 17-28, 2-8 on your dogs.
Part of the problem I have is
7 on lines.
We put out Power Sweep. I've got picks in Power Sweep. Our Power Sweep picks were 5-1 or 4-1-1, depending on what you got Oregon at last week. We had Oklahoma State as our underdog play of the week.
Now, just a heads up for Power Sweep. Can I just offer some advice on there?
What's that?
So the 4-star was Oregon, correct?
Yeah.
And you had Oregon by 7 in the write-up, correct?
Yes.
If I was reading that, you do have the plus sign as like, oh, take the points plus the points.
Yeah.
So you read that as Oregon money line.
We never suggest money line. We are simply saying Oregon is getting the points, and our projected line was Oregon by 7.
Okay. We got to work on making that a little bit clearer, because I was reading that and I was like, huh?
Understand the confusion. It's one of those things that's the same way it was done in 1982, so it's the same way we still do it. And I doubt I would get anyone to change it.
Smells clean. It is clean. But yeah, that's good to hear, CVD. Yeah, you're doing good everywhere else except this show. You are objectively horrific this year. And
well, our Power Sweep has actually been pretty bad. Last week was the first really good week we've had in Power Sweep. So
hey,
that was good to see. And
stem the tide.
It might be something to do with Stu's face. It angers a lot of people, that face.
It angers a lot of people. Hey, Chris, quick question. You have a small lead. You have an incapable quarterback. Do you start throwing the ball against a really good defense with 2 minutes left in the game, or you just run it out? Maybe a little
How
game
dare
management
you?
question.
How dare you?
Maybe for another time.
Listen, the Jets have been down for many years, and we wanted to make them.
This is a college football show, Rob. We don't talk
sorry.
NFL. I wasn't talking about your horrific loss. Could you imagine going to that game? Anyway, Chris.
All right. So first, let me preface this by saying I freaking hate this board this week. Hate it. I did my weekly meeting with Phil and Robbie, and we were going through. We really struggled to find Power Sweep star rated plays. So,
do we like the FCS board though this week? That's the real question.
I haven't really looked at it yet. I don't do my FCS analysis until Wednesday, so I'm going to look at it tomorrow. I'm going to start with my underdog play of the week. It's going to be Auburn. They failed me last week, but I've tended to zig when teams zag, and it's frustrated me. But I'm not. I penciled this as a game I thought Auburn could win, like weeks ago, and I'm sticking by it. The offensive struggles, as far as have mostly been on the road. Their best offensive performances have all come at home. They had 307 yards against Georgia at home. They can run the ball. Ole Miss is coming off a bye, but sometimes teams come off a bye, they're rested, but when they're winning constantly, they kind of get complacent and come out flat in their next game. And I think this could be a tough situation with a nasty road environment. And Hugh Freeze is a good coach. So I think that Auburn's in a prime position at home to possibly pull an upset. They're getting 6.5 here. I just think that this defense will do enough to keep this game close. We haven't seen Ole Miss's offense look like we expected at the beginning of the year. You know, the LSU game is really the only time they really lit it up.
Everybody scores on LSU.
Yeah, except for Auburn. But you know, looking back on that, that was a bad matchup for Auburn, and I played the angles and I looked at series history and ignored the fact that LSU they haven't been stopped and Auburn can't throw the ball. They're not going to be able to keep up with a potent offense like that. I don't think Ole Miss actually has as potent an offense as LSU. I know they matched up and beat them a couple weeks ago. But, you know, the Tulane game earlier this year, Tulane had a backup quarterback. They couldn't move the ball as well. And Auburn was only leading by 7 in the fourth quarter. That was a misleading final. The Georgia Tech game was a misleading final. They were only winning that game. I think it was a 7-point game. 7-point game at the start of the fourth quarter, and Ole Miss scored 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, or 3 touchdowns in a field goal in the fourth quarter to pull away. So they've had some misleading finals. I just think Auburn at home is going to be a tough out for them. As far as my lock, I'm having a hard time finding one, to be honest.
Look at 7:30. There's an easy one.
Well, and Michigan is our early bird, so we did put out our early bird play of the week, if that's what you're referring to.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, War Criminals. Sorry.
Oh, them.
Yeah,
Yes,
those guys.
100%. Hamas. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put you down for Hamas?
It's our early bird play, so yeah, you can put me down for the War Criminals.
Okay, War Criminals.
Not as my lock.
Okay, you would like the War Criminals.
My lock is I'm going to go against one of the coaches that I most dislike and I most enjoy playing against, and that is the Fighting Butch Joneses. Lyle is a walking beatdown. His teams get smoked when they lose. Their 3 losses this year by 73, 34, and 34 against 3 pretty good teams. They're playing Coastal Carolina this week. Now, I don't like that the line's moved against me. The line's up to 10.5. But what I do like is I watched that Appalachian State game last week, and you know they were playing at App State, and I hadn't really liked Tim Beck's changes to this offense, and they had really been struggling from what we're used to seeing with Grayson McCall in Coastal Carolina. But if you watched the game last week, they installed a bunch of Jamie Chadwell's offense back into the scheme, running a lot of option, giving Chadwell RPOs, and it worked. They put up a season high 569 yards. McCall threw for a season high 373. It just looked like a different offense when they put that scheme back in. And I think that Butch Jones is not long for this job. Or, you know, I refer to him as Lyle, his true name. And Lyle's team, since he has been there, have been a lot of lopsided losses on his resume at Arkansas State. So I think the Coastal Carolina only minus 10.5 is a great spot here. They just beat a better team on the road, and now they're playing Arkansas State, who, you know, the quarterback has played well, but you look at that 10-to-1 ratio and you're like, oh man, this quarterback must be pretty good. Well, he threw 6 of those touchdown passes against UMass, and he threw 3 against Southern Miss and 1 against Stony Brook. So the 10 touchdowns that he has thrown, not really indicative of how good this kid is. Against Troy, he was 15 of 27 for 156 yards, no touchdowns. So not convinced that Jalen Raynor is the answer for them at quarterback. And their defense is, as Stu likes to say, AIDS. So I'm going to go Coastal Carolina minus 10.5. A couple other plays I'm going to throw out. Give me BYU at home. Texas Tech is in bad shape at quarterback. They might be starting a true freshman quarterback making his first career start.
By the way, Texas Tech coming off of just an absolute beatdown.
Yeah.
Of Baylor. Just a thorough domination of Baylor.
And now they're laying 4 on the road at BYU, which I know BYU's got some misleading finals. Like the Cincinnati game, they won by 8, but they were outgained by 203 yards. Arkansas, they win by 7, but they
BYU is not easy to play at. That elevation is real, and especially a night game.
Here's a stat for you: the last 3 years, BYU is 19-3 straight up at home. Now, mind you, they're getting points here. 19-3 straight up at home. Texas Tech, the last, I believe it is 5 years. 1, 3, 4. 4-6, 4-17, 4-18, 5-18 straight up on the road. And they're laying points on the road. In elevation, true freshman quarterback. Their backup quarterback is a wide receiver that they had to move over because Baron Morton probably is not going to be able to play, I don't think. So bad shape for Texas Tech's offense, and their defense isn't very good. They don't travel well. They already lost at Wyoming this year. They lost at West Virginia. So give me BYU, a team that we played against last week with TCU and Power Sweep. So I'm going to take the Cougars there. I'm also going to stick in the Big 12, which is weird for me because I don't usually play Big 12 games. But Baylor looks like a mess. Baylor is playing horrific football. And, 2-4 right now. They've, like you mentioned, that Texas Tech beatdown they took. They were smoked against Texas, beat by Utah with all the backup quarterbacks. Also lost to Texas State earlier this year. I think Cincinnati is a little better than this. On philsteele.com, I was looking at our average game grades. The average game grade has an 11-point advantage for Cincinnati. So, the line's only 2.5. You're talking about winning this game by less than a field goal. Basically, you just got to win the game. They are coming off 4 straight losses, but one of those losses was a 14-point loss to Oklahoma, 8-point loss at BYU where they had a 203 yardage edge and they won at Pittsburgh this year. Iowa State's playing a little better lately, so I'm not going to fault them too much for that loss. I'm not a big fan of Emory Jones, but I think Cincinnati can win this game, laying only 2.5. Give me Wisconsin. I don't think that Illinois is actually a good team. I know they beat Maryland last week. Maryland is known for, laying an egg every once in a while, so I'm not going to read too much into that on Illinois' part. I know that Tanner Mordecai's hurt. I think Braden Locke is a game manager that can get them through this game. I think Braden Allen.
Didn't he come from Mississippi?
He did.
Okay.
He did. So I will take Wisconsin laying 2.5 on the road, given that I think they have the better defense here and the better run game. So, a lot of times we actually say to play on a team in their first game when the quarterback's injured because everyone's playing against them, the line moves, and a lot of times the rest of the team steps up in his place. So
that was a crazy win, I thought, for Illinois last week. In a million years, how bad they looked the week before who did they play the week before? It was Nebraska, right? At home.
Yeah.
They laid an absolute dud. No way I would thought they were going to go to Maryland.
That total looks
not
high.
me.
With Malusi out and, you've got Mordecai out. You got a game manager in at quarterback. Illinois' offense looks like something out of 1934 Harvard offense. Why is the total 42.5?
That does seem a little high. And we do have our totals game of the month this week, so that's something I'll look at.
That's so that creeps me out when I see a total like that, and I learned the hard way. Wow, I didn't learn the hard way.
The first thing I would have to say in regards to Illinois, at least, just looking at their finals, almost every game they've played, with the exception of the Nebraska game, has hit either close to 42.5 or over.
Okay, who have they played?
Purdue, FAU, Penn State.
Maryland's got a shit defense. Purdue's got a horrific defense. Florida Atlantic is that
Actually,
game went under.
They're getting better. They're getting better, but
Penn State, this 43, but that's just because Penn State was able to dump truck them. I don't know. I think I might add that play to my card. I don't understand why that total is the way it is. And I don't see Wisconsin scoring more than 24, and I don't see Illinois scoring more than 14.
You're probably right about that. I mean, I again, I don't know what this quarterback is going to be like. I mean, he might be better than I think. He was a Mississippi State recruit, so and that would have been under Mike Leach. So that Mike Leach would want a kid that can throw the ball a little bit. But from what we've seen, he's got okay size, 6'1", 200 pounds, I think, somewhere around there. But we haven't seen a whole lot from him yet. 16 of 31 this year, 130 yards. He hasn't.
While you've been talking, Chris, by the way, I've added like 4 plays to my card. So
Sounds
thank
good.
you.
And the only other thing I'm gonna use is I'm actually opposite of Rob. I got USC in this game. We're not going to use it anywhere in North Coast because I know a couple people don't like it. I kind of like it. I think that on a bounce back, I do agree that Utah's defense is very good, but their offense is pretty bad without Cam Rising, who I think is going to end up redshirting this year. He might come back and play the last.
I was talking to Bobcat about that. If you're Cam Rising, this
What's
quarterback class is absolutely loaded. Even if you go to the draft, what are you, a 4th, 5th, 6th round guy?
Yeah, and you got too many question marks with your injury. You might as well.
You come back for next year.
Yeah. Yeah, so defense is excellent. Offense is really bad. In that situation, I take the home team with the better offense because I just don't see how Utah is going to be able to score with them. And, they haven't played great on the road this year. They haven't traditionally played great on the road, period. So I think that in that situation, they might get overmatched. But
the line scares me a little bit. I don't like that at 7. I feel like I'm going to be the smartest guy in the room with the biggest dumbass on Saturday and be like,
well,
that
it's your
line.
lock of the week, so I'm glad you feel great about it.
Yes. Like I said, not my favorite board. I'm not putting out any totals because I haven't looked at them deeply yet. But as of right now, that's what I've got.
I got totals for you. I got tons of totals for you. But before we get to totals, let's go to the head honcho, the face that runs the place at the Pulse Sports Media Network.
El Jefe.
He is the director of player personnel. He is J.C. Shelton, UGA Football in the present. JC, it's good to have you back, buddy. And in the background, we got UGA Football.
Yes, sir.
Live with Arthur Lynch. Let's go.
Your one-stop shop. Okay. Bye week worked out good. Good to see you guys again. Get back on. Georgia's on bye. So pushing.
I have bones to pick with Georgia right now.
Chris, what's the matter, man? How can I help you?
You hate to see somebody who picked Georgia game and another person who picked Georgia first half. You hate to see.
The heck was that performance last week?
Yeah, it's crazy because we outgained them 500 and something to 180 something like that.
You had a 333-yard edge at the end of the game.
Yeah, so the scoreboard did not indicate that game. It was crazy. And, you take away that one big pass and it's a different game. Fanny scored on that 49-yard pass and Georgia was outgaining them from that in like 2 drives already.
Yeah, they had a 1-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, because it was that pick, right? And Carson does not throw many of those. I don't know what he was seeing right there. But yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting.
Yeah,
We've seen that from Georgia this year. And I was talking to a former Bulldogs about that, about playing at Vanderbilt. And they basically said it's like playing in half of a high school stadium, which is ironic because it is half a college football stadium right now. It's 11 a.m. It was 11 a.m. local kick, right? And then also, even though you have more Georgia fans there, they're all hungover from Nashville night before. So the energy's even lower. than it should be with all those people in attendance. So you had to get the juice for it, and they did not play with juice when they started. So, and then Georgia plays, Kentucky and wipes them from the first snap, and it's weird like that.
Yeah, I have with Georgia this year. I have zigged, they have zagged. I liked them against Auburn. They didn't cover. I backed off them against Kentucky because they burned me against Auburn. They destroy Kentucky, and then I used the under against Kentucky. Completely wrong about that because didn't know their offense was going to play like that. And then last week I used them against Georgia. Against Vandy. They had killed Vandy the last 5 years.
I know Vandy hadn't scored.
And they did, but not,
two matchups. What
enough to
if
cover them.
you're going to bet Georgia is bet them against big teams. Bet them in big time games, and they're probably going to cover. I'm interested to see, and I haven't seen the stat of they're against the spread as in a top 25 matchup. I bet it's pretty good.
I can tell you that they're terrible against FCS teams, like as a 40+ favorite. I had that record a couple weeks ago. I don't know what it is now, but Vanderbilt's really the only team that you play Georgia against when they're laying like 30+ because they've covered the last 5. That they had killed them the last 2 years, like 117-0 combined.
Exactly.
And I was like, they're going to do it again. They're going to have a crowd edge. Vanderbilt's going to want to get the hell out of there. And then Vanderbilt scores like 3 plays into the game, and I'm like, oh no. Yeah. But then it looked okay in halftime. But the thing that sucked was when Bowers got hurt and Truss got hurt, and was it Milton?
Milton went out. Kristen Miller.
And I'm like, man, they're going to want to get the heck out of Dodge because they're like, we've already gotten 3 guys hurt. It's halftime. Let's find.
You could tell. Yeah, you could tell in the third quarter they were not playing aggressively at all. I mean, they took a 12-minute drive and they ran it like 10 times.
Yeah, and then they settled for field goal, which was a killer when you're laying like 30, 32.5.
Yeah, I had them too. So I went through it too. But we'll get into picks. So start with the dogs. I have a few here. So I like Auburn plus 6.5, Ole Miss for the same reasons.
By the way, JC, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Because you were in a deep Georgia Bulldog. By the way, we can all agree Georgia much better than Alabama as a school.
Yes.
I don't think anybody on this show regularly would object to that.
No. Because the people who do are lacking in the IQ department.
Wow. Well, you're not going to live till next week. JC Shelton, 15-17 on the year. Dogs, 3-5. But however, that's a much better stat than his locks, which are 1-5. JC, continue with your Auburn plus 6.5 take.
I kind of wish you did interrupt me now because now I just have 0. Well, I have more confidence than Chris should. Dogs. Auburn, 6.5. I like what Chris is saying there. Everything he said. Get back game for Hugh. Auburn is one of the toughest players. From talking to players who've played at Auburn, it's one of the toughest places they've ever played, and consistently. Doesn't matter really how their team's doing. Those guys get up for that game. So it's in the prime slot too for them to play well. I think they're just set up to maybe even win this game, but I'll definitely take the points here. And then I got Duke, my other dog, plus 14. Duke's a tough team, man, and they play some physical teams and played really well. So, I like just because how physical they are, they're going to give Florida State a game here. So excited to see that. But Coleman is a problem at receiver. He's going to be an NFL, but he's going to be a good NFL pro if he can, barring any injuries and such. But that
what
kid
did you think about the quarterback's performance last week for Duke? Because that's the thing that had us going against Duke this week. Because normally I'm with you. I want to play Duke as an underdog.
Yeah,
I just don't think Riley Leonard's going to be back for this game.
Yeah, well, I hope so. What's his status? Do we know?
Well, I'm just thinking, like, from my experience,
Riley's not playing this week
with high ankle sprains. He got hurt against Notre Dame. They had a bye week. They played NC State last week. It's only 3 weeks, and he's coming back from a high ankle sprain that looked bad on television. I just don't think he's playing.
That line at 14-2 speaks volumes that he's not playing. I feel like
which is why that because they didn't Remember last week they said that he was a game time decision, but the line was
Mhm.
3, which was absurd. And
Mhm.
I felt like
I think
that's
that-
why
I
that
th-
line was 3, because everyone knew he wasn't playing.
I think the interesting thing about last week is he really didn't throw the ball. He had a play or two.
He had 12
But
attempts and he had 4 completions. Yeah.
Yeah, and he ran the ball. And I
Yeah.
was looking at it, and it's very similar in some aspects to how Boston College played Florida State. I think you can run on Florida State. They're going to have to get really creative in the RPO game and what have you. However, Florida State at home, Duke's got to travel. That is going to be a big game for Florida State as they try to. They need this victory, and they need to make a statement to get pushed up the polls. We're starting to get into that. You need to make statements, and you need to win big games. You need to defeat your top 25 opponents. That's a tough spot. I think Duke's a really good football team. Mike Elko, shout out pride of Texas A&M. I don't know where else he's from, but just a great Texas A&M born and bred coach. I respect Duke, but man,
I'm sorry to cut you off, JC. I was just curious if you saw anything from that.
No, good. I mean, I thought he was going to play because he was game time last week, and high ankles, yeah. I mean, but if he's going to be a passer more, they might let him go. I think it depends on how he's feeling, but usually those length of recoveries for the high ankles are pretty lengthy, right? And you can't wait for a while because the swelling. That's why Brock's getting the tie rod surgery on his. You can come back faster with it. But yeah, we'll see about that. I mean, I'm probably not going to put it in until I know more about them, but I'll go with it for the sake of the show. I think it's just really physical. And when you have a physical team like that on both sides of the ball, they'll keep you in there. Maybe if your quarterback's not healthy, or you do something else with a running quarterback, throw Florida State off a little bit, because I think the running quarterback really, and that even speaks. We can talk about Auburn in that aspect too, because Georgia had issues obviously stopping that option. And you don't really play many teams like that. So it's hard for those teams to prepare and do that. It's kind of it's different situations for the linebackers, defensive linemen, reading keys, stuff like that, holding guys at the point so the linebackers can play free. So I think that's something that, if Duke's able to do and run, maybe that'd be good for them. Penn State, I really have not liked Penn State all year. But if I think Ohio State obviously has the cord and the problems they have passing the football, who do you pick in the quarterback battle here? Penn State's obviously physical, so is Ohio State. They did, I think they got outplayed for most of that game versus Notre Dame, and got away with the win there by some poor decisions by Notre Dame. But I think you take a physical team like this, and I say that a lot, these big time games, more physical. I think it's going to be hard, though. It's going to be hard for him. Can Aller make enough plays? He's looked good, but he hasn't played a defense like this. We'll see. I'm pretty low scoring. What's the over under on that total?
Well, so
It
the
is.
over under is interesting because it opened at, I want to say 51 or 52, and it's crossed all the way down to 47, 46 and a half. It has plummeted.
I was looking at that earlier. I'm probably not going to play. I'm not sure enough, but I was thinking under for that. Maybe y'all do as well. I don't know. I think that's. Yeah, I think it's defensive battle here, right? And maybe Aller is able to open up some holes and put a little show together points wise, but something to watch out for.
Well, the thing that makes me like that under is the fact, I don't know if you guys saw the stat, but Penn State's like last in the country in explosive plays.
Wow.
I think Aller has like 2 plays of longer than 20 yards or something. Let me see if I can find that stat. It's crazy how like few, considering how well they've played offensively, how they haven't had any explosive plays.
Yeah. Well, you think too, like so we think Aller. I mean, that's an interesting stat about the explosive plays. I think from at least what they put on the field this year, he's better than McCourt. He looks more comfortable for sure. And running offense doesn't, hurt that as well. But the defensive wise, I mean, Penn State's up there in defense. I think they have this Ohio State defense beat from what we've seen. Penn State, maybe quality opponents haven't been there. But it'll be interesting. I think it's a defensive battle, so I might hit that under.
The last time
yeah,
Ohio State went against a top defense, and I mean top
Notre
20
Dame.
defense,
Notre Dame.
and they struggled.
Yeah, they did.
What
They did.
happens when you
They
go
did.
up against a top 10 defense?
Yeah.
Yeah, Aller has just 19 of his attempts have been for 15 yards or more the entire season. He's completed 7 of those. So he has only 7 completed passes of over 15 yards, and the average depth of his passes are 6 yards. Now,
I wouldn't be surprised. Go ahead.
That could be a product of they have played a pretty weak schedule and they haven't need to show anything.
That's exactly what I was about to say. It's like we had a similar stat last year with Stetson Bennett, right? His completions percentage on 20+ yards throws, stuff like that, was tops in the country, but the amount was one of the lowest in the country. But then when we had to do it, obviously, I mean, it worked out in the end. So that I think that's something that maybe Aller might double those numbers, right? If he needs to. If he's like, I don't know, like that quality of opponent, the games you play, getting benched in the second half or whatever because you're up on Rutgers, Michigan State universities.
They've been well ahead of every team they've played. Their closest win this year is by 17 points.
Yeah.
Not on this defense, pal.
He's going to have to throw it deep, right? I mean, unless they just are able to control the line of scrimmage like that, but I don't know if you can do that with all those 4 and 5 stars for Ohio State are on the lines. But I digress. UNC 23 versus Virginia. Like Dre made to make it a field day, put like 600 yards of offense for UNC in this game.
Tez Walker really opens up that offense.
He does.
That is what they were missing. Tez Walker opens up that.
Yeah, offense. That's no coincidence. Steve's able to come in and do that first day, first game. So I like North Carolina. It's a lot of points. I usually don't like that, but I'll take them. I think Virginia is just AIDS, as Stu would say. And then because Stu is acting the way he is, I'm going to take Michigan.
Who?
What do you call them? The horrible people. What is it?
Hamas. KKK.
Oh, yeah.
War criminals.
The guys with the really, really ugly uniforms.
Oh, the war criminals.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And also, UGA Football Live, JC Shelton, for all you dog fans who probably do not listen to Stu and Rob. Yeah. And then the Pulse Sports Network. So subscribe when you can. And then Players Lounge, where I'm at, find my words there. And then USA Today, still doing work for them as well.
JC, I'm not going to subscribe to the Players Lounge until you start doing real schools like, I don't know, James Madison. Give me in-depth talk about Troy Trojans.
And you'd listen to
I'd be all in. I could care less about the big schools. I want to know what's the pulse of Georgia Southern.
Oh, I can tell you, Georgia, that's my Eagles, man. I was about to put them on the card. I was. I'm a former Eagle, guys.
You want to put the Eagles on there?
I do not. No, I looked it over. I don't like it anymore, but I was wanting just for the sake of being an Eagle.
I'm a big Georgia State Panther guy.
I mean, if you're following, if you're putting it on them every week, then you're probably up a few units.
Few shekels. They came through last week. That was a line play. All right, JC Shelton, check him out. He is the CFO of the Paul Sports Network. Please support the pirate ship. Check us out on the YouTubes. Please log in, check it out, give a thumbs up, share it with your friends. You'll learn something. All right, now comes to the big kahuna. Now, Bobcat, he is MIA. He's actually technically in second place for picks this year. However, first place belongs to Big Papa Pump.
Why are we letting him call himself this, guys?
Yet again,
my God.
35, 26, last week, 5-3.
He does his picks with a pencil. That's all I'll say.
Wait, what did you say your record was, Stu?
35-26.
That's pretty good, buddy.
All the picks are on audio recorded.
But keep in mind, guys, for the audience, Stu keeps track of his. So
they're audio recorded. If somebody wants to go back and listen, you will come up with the same exact number.
And you can say that because you know it'll never happen. And that's very smart.
Yeah, that's why he says
Rob will do it. Rob's got no life on the weekend.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, he'll do it. 35-26, dogs 3-5, locks 5-4. We've been missing on our game of the month, but it just bad luck. last week, EJ Warner just goes out 10 minutes before the game. That game would have went over. Bad luck. Brutal stuff. All right, let's start off. I'm taking West Virginia. I'm going back. I had him last week. Hail Mary killed me. Why is the line 3.5 at home against Oklahoma State?
Yeah,
That's a complete line play. Give me the Mountaineers, John Denver, airplanes, crashes, winds, fire, West Virginia. Another one. I'm going to take Wake Forest money line. Why is Wake Forest favored against Pittsburgh? Wake Forest is horrific. Off a bye. Right off a double-digit victory against Louisville, and Wake Forest is favored at home.
Where they were outgained by
Still, Chris, you know the drill. You know the drill. People look at last week. That's what they bet on.
Well, but the power ratings for Vegas don't move. Like Vegas has their power ratings. One performance doesn't move them very much. That's why Wake Forest is favored in this game, because after 4 games of poor performances from Pitt, they drop Pitt way down in one game.
This line has been bet up. This line has been bet up.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
I'm taking Wake Forest money line. I'm not going to lay any points with Wake Forest because they are a bad team, but I'm going to take a money line. That is just strictly a situational play. I love Missouri, South Carolina over 60. That is, give me all of that. South Carolina, when you can say you gave up 430 yards to Graham Mertz, I mean, you're in a special breed. You're tough a special class. Very tough. Give me the over in that game. I was hemming and hawing on Baylor Cincy over 50.5. That total has been bet up about 4 or 5 points. I took it off. I added Wisco, Illinois under 42.5. But that Baylor Cincy game's juicy. I also had New Mexico State penciled in. I erased that. I do like New Mexico State. That's a Wednesday game for you folks. Line has flipped 4 points. UTEP off a victory over FIU and what will go down as a game that sets back college football for 14, 15 years.
Man, how we cashed the under in that game was unbelievable. I could not believe that under hit.
Brutal game. But New Mexico State, I-10 rivalry. I mean, big game. 4-point swing on the spread. I did take it off though, because I heard what you and JC said, CVD, and I'm gonna listen and take that to heart. So give me Ole Miss -6.5. This is complete fade against you two. You've been objectively horrible on this show. So I'm going with the Rebs.
I'm a former champion. Champion.
That's fair.
Chris,
that's fair.
Yeah, that's great. Former champion. Can't even get to 500. Anyway. Penn State, Ohio State, give me the under. Now, I locked this in yesterday, and we apparently made this rule. I got it at 48.5. What do you guys want me to get it at for the show?
I would say whatever it is now.
Okay, so we're changing the rule.
Well, is it what? I mean, if it's your rule, then it's your rule.
It's not my rule. This was the whole Bobcat thing. This was the Bobcat thing.
Oh, I remember. All right. I sided with Bobcat on that one.
Yes. So the over-under is 47. I'm going to take a vote. It can either be 48.5, what I played it at, or 47. Chris agrees with me, 48.5. JC, Roberto, I know you're watching Nick Cassiano strike out. What do you think?
Harper just hit one right to the friggin' wall. I would say go with what it is right now.
Okay, JC?
I'm with you on that, Rob.
Okay, I will take under 47 in the Penn State-Ohio State game. And going forward, that's the rule. Bobcat, I hope you're listening. I swear to God.
I'll put that on mine, too, if you don't mind.
I will put that on yours.
Thank you.
I got 2 dogs. I'm taking Penn State plus 4.5. I think this is a close game, field goal game. Give me the 4.5. I love what Chris said, and Chris brought up some great points. BYU at home plus 4.5. Looking at that game, if Texas Tech's QB is questionable, BYU getting 4.5. They're the worst team, but yeah, I'm going to side with you, Chris. I 100% agree with you. Great cap, 4.5. And then my lock, which will also go down as a game of the year play, 2-1 on game of the years, 2-1. Screwed over at the 1 yard line by Texas State. Hate to see it. Screwed over last week by bullshit wannabe Big Ten school that belongs in the Big East that really has no business and even being in Division I. Should be playing Princeton this weekend. I'm going to go with the war criminals. Sometimes you got to side with Hamas. And that's what I'm going to do this weekend. They are going to brutally beat down my Spartans. And I'm going to enjoy it while our head coach listens to Kids Bop 17 and Ice Spice. So that'll be fun. I'm not watching the game. Just check the final score. Final score 45-7. That's what I'm going to put it at. So I'm also reverse lining it too, by the way.
Let's say 31-13.
31-13. Okay. Just want to pull up some scores for you. Let's pull up some scores while we look this up. 52-7, 52-10, 45-7, 31-7, 31-6, 35-7, 30-3. You want to take a gander at what the best team in that group played against was?
Who?
It was Rutgers. So they are, by the way, the tunnel incident, that was last year. I know people forgot it. They're going to make a point this year.
I forgot about the tunnel incident.
Yeah.
Beginning of the end.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And by the way, a lot of Michigan State fans selling their tickets to Michigan fans. Michigan should be your game of the month. Michigan is going to be my game of the month, my game of the year. That's my promise to you. If Michigan does not win, I will not give any more locks for the rest of the season. I will take an L for the rest of the season. I will take one L every week for the rest of the year if Michigan does not cover 24.5.
Like that.
And by the way, I'm also reverse lining this as high as I can go because Michigan is going to pour it on and Michigan State can't score on them. Hope you had a great week. Hope you have a great week betting. JC Shelton, Paul Sports Network. Check us out, YouTube. Hit us up on the Twitter. Give us a follow. CVD, NC Sports. What you got going?
We got our totals game of the month this week. College totals. We lost our NFL game of the month last week. It's our first big play loss this year, so I'm not going to sweat that too much. I'm not going to give Sean a hard time for what
Stevie D. I've got something for you offline. I heard a great quote by a friend of ours.
Yeah, that's fine. Not that one didn't work out, but he usually hits those. So just one loss. We're not going to win every big play we put out. But we do have our totals game of the month in college. Won our totals game of the month last month on Iowa State versus Ohio under. That was an easy winner. It was, I think, 0-0 at halftime or something. And we had your
guys' totals are really solid, by the way.
Well, yeah, we usually do well on our totals. Our sides have been bad, but we did go 4-3 on Saturday. Our losses were mostly on SEC games that I pushed, like Auburn and Alabama. So, Auburn and Georgia. Sorry, Auburn and Georgia both lost. But, I take the L on those and walk away. But, Yeah, I think this is gonna be a pretty good week. Like I said, I don't love the board. Usually, when I don't love the board, though, we have a better week. So, when we find a couple games like BYU sticks out, I think that's going to be a play at the end of the week for us.
All righty. I love it. CBD Power Sweep podcast. Listen to that. That'll be out soon. I can't wait to come back. I want one more time. Please, not on a week where I have to talk about the war criminals or
and
Sparks.
Just you cannot promise to give out all your picks for free.
Please tell me you got more phone calls.
I did, and I took a little bit of heat from the boss man for that. So
okay.
Yeah.
He was never allowed back on that show.
That's tough. The good news is all my picks are free for the rest of the season. So that is a positive. I do
that's what we told everyone.
Yeah, that's tough. Roberto, on that note, we're back for the NFL show this week. We got Jim Root. We're talking college basketball. JC Shelton, he doesn't care about college basketball. His school doesn't play in college basketball. CBD cares. We're in it. He'll be listening. Jim Root coming from the 3-man weave and the NFL show.
College basketball season, awesome. We need to have a college wrestling tournament podcast next year. And
I'm in. I'm in. If we can bet it, though. Only if we can bet it. If we can bet it, I'm down to have it.
Betfred is the only place to headlines.
Okay. If I can get a Betfred account, me and Rob will go in with you and we will bet all the college wrestling tournaments.
Absolutely.
That's my promise to you.
And here's what sucks. Like, they didn't put out lines on like the individual matches until the semifinals. And the semifinals were they didn't put them out until like that morning. So like not a lot of time to put a podcast up. We'll figure that out. But that'd be a lot of fun.
There's other places to bet in the great United States of America or its territories.
Hopefully we get more places put lines out on it, because I had some great calls. Vito Arajau from Cornell, who not only won the national tournament, pulled the big upset against Penn State kid Roman Bravo Young, but ended up winning the world title this year. That dude is unbelievable.
But
and he's got huge ears.
Here's my question. Will he beat John Cena at SummerSlam? More on that on the next show. Until then, take care, brush your hair. And for Roberto, for JC, for CBD, we'll see you after a while.